Adding mechanical load to an electrical circuit, A, decreases resistance, B, increases amperage, C, decreases amperage, or D, decreases voltage. The correct answer is B. Adding mechanical load or mechanical resistance to electrical circuits increases amperage. Electrical resistance decreases amperage.
Welcome back to Tech Garage presented by Advanced Auto Parts. Now we got our winch all bolted up and secured. The bolts are torqued to specifications according to the actual instructions. We ran the wire harness all the way back, tucked it in real nice, got it to our Optima battery, nice and clean and secure. We're ready to check that amp draw that I promised you earlier. Now, how are we going to actually check an amp draw to a winch? I got an idea. We got this old VAT40. Now, this is pretty cool because we can hook this up and we can watch the amps as we start pulling this. I'm going to take the positive lead to this VAT40, put the negative on first. That's even better. I'll put the negative on first, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put the positive on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this amp probe and I'm going to put it around the wire that's going to the winch. Why? Because when I run the winch, the amps are going to run to the winch, and this machine here is going to count them. Now, keep in mind, this isn't stuck in any mud. We're just kind of freewheeling, and I secured it to a secure location on the other shop, at least I hope, because we're going to pull this forward, and as we pull this forward, watch right here on this dial. You can see here on the bottom, that's the scale we're looking at. Right below this 20 is 100 amps. Right below the 40 is 200 amps. Now, I'm suspecting this thing dragging along in the shop floor should draw anywhere from 100 to 200 amps. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and you're going to see the amps that it's actually going to draw. Ooh, pulling it forward, drew about 200 amps, and that's just a freewheeling situation.
And that is a great snapshot for just how much of an amp draw there is on this entire system. So the next logical step, and possibly one of the most undone elements of a winch installation, is a new alternator. We told you our factory alternator, the OE, is about 80 amps. This is almost 120 amps. Big difference, very meaningful step, and you shouldn't forget this.
Now, before Brian installs that alternator, let's do a quick review. He said a little while ago, check what kind of alternator you have. Now, you may have one with a decoupler pulley. And what I did is I took a pick and I picked this top piece off right here, and I can look inside of here and I can tell it's going to need some special tools to get that pulley off. A decoupler pulley is like another tensioner. It's like a belt tensioner, but it's built into the alternator for smooth operation. You might be asking, well, what does an alternator do? Well, it converts mechanical energy of the engine into electrical energy. It's actually an alternator, AC current. So what's happening is right here I have a cool little demo. If I spin this, the actual inside is the rotor assembly, and it's spinning around and it's inducing a voltage into the stator, which is out here, and it's putting an AC voltage. Now inside the alternator, you have a rotor assembly and you have a stator. So what's happening is it's spinning, it's magnetically inducing a voltage into here, which is an AC. It's three-phase AC. So then we have to go through a rectifier process, we have to go through a diode trio. Any one of these right here, we can cut those into half-wave rectification or full-wave rectification, come out the back, and guess what? Go into the battery. Now, an alternator, why we're discussing the internals of the alternator, is it only supplies what the battery needs. Think about this for a minute. We upgraded that alternator. And why did we upgrade that alternator? Well, if it has to work a lot easier, it's a lot less gas mileage, it's a lot less strain. There's a huge magnetic field. So you got a voltage regulator that senses the voltage that's going in and it changes it. It changes it to low voltage or high voltage and creates this huge magnetic field. And I have a cool demo here I can show you. I'm going to take this Optima battery, I'm going to hook this up, and I'm going to create a magnetic field right here. Now each time I do that, I take that away, you see the spark. But this socket here, this weighs about a pound. This is an 1.25 inch socket. I'm going to put that right here, and I'm going to magnetize that. You can see it's stuck. You can do it again. Put it right there. Well, what does that mean to you? Well, think about that. That's a magnetic field spinning inside of that stator assembly. If that battery's starving for voltage, he's going to ask that alternator for more, and more. Bigger, bigger, bigger magnetic field. The rotor's connected to the belt. The serpentine belt's driven by the engine. There's more gas mileage. You add accessories, whatever you put on the car, the more alternator draw, the harder it's going to have to work. So that upgraded alternator is going to do the job, and that's what we need for our application.
So after John's load test, I've disconnected the negative battery terminal so we can remove the original alternator. Now on the Jeep, very simple. There's a lower bolt and an upper bolt. Lower bolt's out. A couple turns I have this upper bolt out. And of course I release the tension on the serpentine belt so we can remove this. And there's just two connectors on the back of the alternator. Really couldn't be much easier. It's literally out with the old and in with the new high-performing high-amp alternator. Goes right back in place, real gentle here. I don't want to bend any brackets or break anything. I'm going to hang it with this upper bolt to get the weight off of it, and then I'll get the connectors back in place. All right, so the upper bolt's in, I've got the weight suspended. Make sure if it requires torque specs that you follow them. You want this alternator to be true and in place to get proper belt alignment, to get the maximum performance out of the alternator and not wear out your belt. Get the lower bolt back in. Now it's just 2 connectors on the back. I'll reconnect the negative battery cable. It's just that simple. Stay with us on Tech Garage. We'll be back.
Which circuit protection device resets and can be used again? A. Circuit breaker. B. Blade type fuse. C. Fusible link. Or D. Glass fuse. The correct answer is A. Cycling type circuit breakers reset automatically when the bimetallic arm cools once the current stops.